gotcha. What style is that? Whole thing.
You are now listening to the Bishop Chronicles. Bishop Chronicles.
You're not to learn. Right. Try with me. It's my own secret technique.
Police all my drawers, I had to pause, 40 ounce in my lap and it's freezing my A. You know what it is. Thank you for listening to FarsideTV.com. You are listening to Side Life Radio, and as always, I am your host, the one, the only, Adisa, the Bishop, a.k.a. the Black Dragon of the West Side, a.k.a. Zatoichi. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. A.K.A. the South Bay Shogun, you know what it is. A.K.A. the Iron Hook Assassin. A.K.A. the Black Cortez Killer. Bishop Chronicles is the world's first podcast giving you West Coast perspectives on hip-hop, MMA, and health and fitness trends. Ain't nobody out there lacing your cranium with this here vibranium like Adisa, the Bishop of hip-hop. Understand, you can be down now or you can bow down later. This is how we do out here. This is West Coast OGs all day. So thank you for taking the time to tune in. Thank you. You know what I mean? You might be stuck in traffic. You know what I mean? You might be in school right now, in between classes, because you better not listen to this while you in class. Pay attention to the teacher. Pay attention. You know what I'm saying? In summer school, you know what I'm saying? But just do me and my man Mike Realm a favor. Do me a favor. Just go follow right now on iTunes or Spotify or Mixcloud. By the way, I just set up a profile on Spotify and I have like hella songs. Come listen to my little curated gatherings of hip hop, heavy metal, and reggae. Oh yeah. Hip hop, heavy metal, and reggae. That's right. Come through. Check me out. The Bishop. You know what I'm saying? Adisa the Bishop. Come see me. You know what I'm saying? Listen to my joints, bruh. All right. So, as always, if you're trying to just holler at your boy, you can always get at me on Instagram at Real Hip Hop Chess on IG. At Real Hip Hop Chess on IG. You know what I'm saying? I've been chilling. I hope you've been chilling. And we about to go do this. So, opening giving heartbeat props. Heartbeat props are when you give a shout out to people who are, you know what I'm saying, actually living and not waiting until they pass away to be like, man, we got love for Greg. Man, y'all didn't say nothing to Greg. Last week he was trying y'all get y'all buy his t-shirts and you didn't want to buy them. So, we giving love to the people who give love to us. And I want you to take a minute today, call 3 people, tell them that you appreciate them and be specific about why. So I'm going to give 3 shout outs real quick. First to my man Nasir out in Stockport in the UK. What's up, Ak? Peace, bruh. Peace. How you living, bae? Know what I mean? This dude has been down with me since the early days, like pre-Hip Hop Chess Federation. You know what I mean? When I was just running blogs and stuff, you know what I'm saying? He's a good dude, and he reminded me, he said, yo, man, I still drink the Bishop's Red Caddy and the Bishop's Black Caddy. Did you know that Adisa was the creator of 2 beverages? 2 beverages, non-alcoholic. Let's talk about the first one. The Bishop's Red Caddy is 7-Up with 3, maybe 4 teaspoons of grenadine, red syrup, you know what I mean? And then you squeeze in 3 lemon wedges. You need the lemon wedges for the bite. You need that bite in there. You know what I mean? If it's the Black Caddy, it's Coke with 3 lemon wedges and 3 or 4 grenadine tablespoons, you know what I'm saying? Sweeten to your taste. You feel me? So shout out to Nasir, bruh. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for drinking them beverages, bae. You know what I mean? That's a good summer beverage. It's a good summer beverage for you. And I'm not saying to drink soda all the time, obviously. You know what I mean? I mainly drink water and tea. But sometimes, especially on the weekends, on my cheat day, Fridays are my cheat day, that's how I get down. And now I'm shouting out the producer, the hip-hop producer, Yaramin on Beats. He actually, you may have heard his name come up when I was talking with Tyson Amir on the last show. This dude has been making break records and making beats, like dope beats, since way back in the Peanut Butter Wolf pre-Stones Throw era. Pre-Stones Throw. Shout out to On Beats, man. Me and him been teaching together hip-hop history at Creekside Junior High. It's actually, they got a high school summer school going on there. We do U.S. history, you know what I'm saying? And I teach the first half going through U.S. history and then correlating to how hip hop has kind of echoed some of those sentiments, you know what I'm saying? And it's been pretty dope, man. It's been pretty dope. What have I been up to? Man, trying to stay out this quake, dog. I'm in the Bay hella scared. Much respect and love to all of the firefighters and first responders, man, in this quake in Cali, in Southern Cali. Much love, man. I'm up in the Bay. I'm hella scared. Listen, bottom line is this, bruh. This whole state is unstable. Always been unstable. You know what I mean? I was here in the 89 earthquake. It was crazy after that. I feel like the Bay is overdue, and I hate to say that out loud, but I do. And I grew up on the fault line. You know what I mean? San Andreas is just a game to y'all. Not me. Live here, dog, on the fault line. So, you know, the idea of a 7.1 hitting where I live is terrifying. But whatever, right? Still got to ride the BART. Oh, my God. Beyond that, like I said, teaching at Creekside, right? So what do we teach this week? A lot, and it was amazing. Hip-hop education is the future. Remember that I said that. Hip-hop education is the future, and it should be applied in every subject, and it is applicable in virtually every subject, and that is not something that can be done with rock, jazz, classical, or a lot of other music forms, you know what I'm saying? Blues, and there's no disrespect to any of them. I'm telling you, there's something special about hip-hop. That because it comes from Black and Latino men and women, it gets ignored. Because it's youth culture, it gets ignored. I'm telling you, we have been having amazing classes. So I teach the first half on history and how it played out in hip hop. And then on beats teaches the beat making. You know what I mean? He's teaching a whole thing on Ableton. These kids is out here remaking the Juicy beat from Big and then putting a Nas acapella on top in a week and some change. Come on, dog. Your kids don't need that, huh? We get into like breaks where they came from, but it's sick. So you might be saying to yourself, okay, well, what you teaching then, Dees? What you teaching? Let me tell you exactly what I'm teaching. This week, we looked at how the mafia worked with the United States government to pull off the Bay of Pigs. And when the Bay of Pigs failed because Kennedy wouldn't send in the air support, he got killed by the mob. That's what really happened. And that's not a conspiracy. That's documentable facts. There's books on this. The History Channel even did a whole thing on it. And don't go, oh, well, the History Channel. Bruh, I don't play games, bro. I know what I'm talking about. All right? Kennedy got clapped by the mob because not just the Bay of Pigs, but I think, I may get his names wrong. If I do, forgive me. I think it's Sam Giancana in Chicago, got him the votes. They needed to win Chicago. The Kennedy said, will you get us Chicago? He said, yeah. He helped lock Chicago. And he was like, all we want is don't mess with us. Let the mob do what we do. Don't be honest. As soon as he got in, they was like, yo, we on the mob. It's a problem. And so they felt betrayed. And they went after him. And there was a mob boss in New Orleans who I'm forgetting, and Sam Giancana, if I'm right with that name, whoever was running the mob in Chicago at that time. And that's how he got killed. We also then looked at the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., how the government never really liked him, but it was really after he started critiquing Vietnam that he became a problem to the United States government in a way that they really didn't like. And that between JFK's assassination and Dr. King's assassination and the Vietnam War, that is how you get the recipe for hip hop being consistently anti-war. And that's where you really get the foundation of hip hop being used and seen as a tool of nonviolence. And you already know how I feel. I believe every element of hip hop, DJing, MCing, graffiti, all forms of hip hop dance, right? And knowledge itself are all weapons against the state. Nonviolent weapons against the state. Because if you come up with the illest, most violent rhyme, most hurtful lyric you can ever come from, I don't care what you're talking about, 50 Cent, some from Jedi Mind Tricks, some from NWA, whoever hurt your feelings, Cardi B, you know what I'm saying? Future, whatever, I don't care. it's still a poem. A person who could have got mad and picked up a gun, picked up a pen. Then we can have a bigger argument about, well, what happens with life imitating art, art imitating life, whatever. It's a poem. It's nonviolence, ultimately. And I always stand by that. So my point is that when the people who did have to go, right, they got drafted into Vietnam or whatever, when they came back, these are the guys that had PTSD before we knew what it was. These are the guys that got strung out on heroin, right? These are the guys that first ended up getting strung out on crack. These were the parents of the children that created hip hop. These were the parents of the children that created hip hop. And then when you fast forward into the early 90s, when hip hop is in its like arguably its strongest moment, you find Casualties of War by Rakim, and there are several other songs, anti-war songs, right? You remember Public Enemy's Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos, right? Was about like a dude not wanting to get drafted, going to the clink, and then they got to break him out, right? So this was the kind of music that was coming out of hip hop. And it's directly because of the protest positions, not just of Dr. King, right, and others like him, but again, because the adults that went to war back then came back and became the parents of those that created hip hop. So when Operation Desert Storm and Operation Desert Shield came up, no, hip hop was not having it, and that's why hip hop has always been anti-war. Right? Because these kids had parents who suffered from Agent Orange poisoning, right? And so these are the kinds of things that we talked about. Then we did a whole secondary look at the impact of Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X on Muhammad Ali, right? And how he was a rhymer, right? Basically a freestyle battle rhymer who was a boxer, okay? And we looked at the Rumble in the Jungle. And a lot of people forget that the Rumble in the Jungle, when Ali fought George Foreman, that there was a music festival with that. And James Brown was like the main dude at that. So I was explaining how if you really just look at Muhammad Ali's rhymes and you really look at James Brown's beats, you basically have the foundation of hip hop right there. Right there. Then we looked at women in hip hop. We did a whole day on women in hip hop. We had, we looked at Lauryn Hill, Queen Latifah, DJ Pam the Funkstress. We showed B-Girl battles, and we looked at Snow the Product. We, it was just powerful stuff. We looked at Asada Shakur, right? And her impact on Tupac, and just crazy stuff, man. It was beautiful. And I love doing it, and I love teaching the youngsters, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's where the OG's been at, man. That's what's up over here. So yeah. So beyond that, man, you know what? I've been slowly getting back into jiu-jitsu. You know, I've been dealing with some injuries and just distractions because life is crazy. And I created a haiku, a Japanese poem about jiu-jitsu. Mike, can you give me some flutes, please? I need some Japanese flutes, bro. Help me out. Or if you have some harp strings. You ready? Here we go. Now remember, for those that don't know about haikus, they do not have to rhyme. It's based on syllables. 5 syllables is the first line, 7 syllables is the second, and 5 is the third line. It's a 3-line poem. Okay, you ready? This is my contribution to haikus. Here we go. Flutes, please, or harps, whatever you got. Fist bump, then battle. Blood on my kimono now. I radiate chi. Domo arigatou gozaimasu. Yeah, so your boy's been writing haikus all the time. Like, no joke. Like, I really have a whole bunch of haikus. They're not all jiu-jitsu based. Some of them are romantic. I do have a soft side, you know. What am I listening to? Whew, let me tell you, player. Let me tell you, player. So, on Spotify, I've been listening to this group called Children of Zeus. Oh my God. You are sleeping. I've been sleeping. One of my homegirls put me up on Children of Zeus. Ridiculous. Children of Zeus. Listen to what I tell you. It's an MC and a singer, bruh. You need to listen. Smoke with me. I do not smoke. I don't. But you know what? Smoke with Me is an amazing song. It's an amazing song. Follow them immediately on Spotify. Listen to Smoke With Me, but they have hella songs. And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. For the Bay, all y'all should be rocking with these dudes because they're ridiculous. The other day, also going back to the Creekside class, we did a whole thing on storytelling in hip hop. And, you know, I'm breaking down Ice Cube, Once Upon a Time in the Projects. We're breaking down A Children's Story. We're breaking down Biz Markie, Just a Friend. And this is why old people like me need to listen to the young people like them. And this wasn't even me. On Beats, he was like, hey, what story raps do you guys think we should listen to? Because we telling you all our favorite classic story raps. Boy, listen, have you ever looked up Rico's Story by Speaker Knockers? Rico's Story. Unbelievable story rap. It's in 4 parts about a kid who's down on his luck with his lady, so he decides to rob a bank. And as you can imagine, everything goes wrong. Crazy thing is, this ain't even new. In fact, Speaker Knockers is dead. Unbelievable. In real life, Speaker Knockers is dead. You need to look up Rico's Story. On YouTube, there's a video. It's in 4 parts, but there's only a video for the first section of the story. Unbelievable. Otherwise, you can listen to the whole thing on Spotify, but it's unbelievable, and it's really tragic because Speaker Knockers was hard. Hard. Hella late. And then came up on this one girl who busts acapella bars on Insta called Milena. Mostly she be rapping about boys who act a fool and don't show respect to women and stuff, but she's raw. Is she signed? Milena is spelled M-A-L-A-Y-N-A-H. M-A-L-A-Y-N-A-H. Milena. Oh my God. Bars. Listen to what I'm telling you. Listen to what I'm telling you. She raw. Latinas are about to kick the door in a little bit more for hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Move over, Cardi B. No, I'm just kidding. Cardi B, I'm a fan. You already know. Anyway, what am I reading? I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. I hope I said his name right. Ramit Sethi. It says, no guilt, no excuses, no BS, just a 6-week program that works. Here's the deal. I'm 49 years old. Other than put money in the bank, I have no plans. I have to live better, bro. So I got the book. I'm going to read up, you know what I'm saying? Financial literacy. It's a thing. I'm late to the party, I know. Beyond that, man, I'm just, working out, trying to handle my finances and whatnot. And that's all she wrote. I am really about to push meat all the way out of my life, though. I went to the doctor. I'm looking good. I'm doing a pescatarian thing right now. I do eat meat sometimes. I would like to be fully vegetarian. I don't know if I can do vegan, especially because I have I need to take vitamin B12, and you can only mainly get that through meat. I do have, these B12 supplements, but I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. I do know that 90% of my diet is vegetarian, though. You know what I'm saying? And, the more that you look at the vegetarian lifestyle, it's pretty deep, because if you look at all the prophets of the Bible and whatnot, they were largely vegetarian. They normally only ate meat when the people ate meat, and they would eat meat with them, but they themselves normally ate strictly vegetables. For real, look it up. Also, the Stoic philosopher Seneca was vegetarian for the bulk of his life. And I guess he left being vegetarian because some political party also became vegetarian, and he didn't want to be affiliated with them. But he swore by it. He said that it made his mind more active, and he thought it was pleasant and easy to do, right? And so I'm going to encourage you to be a vegetarian. Yep, for sure. Beyond that, I'm just eating, a lot of fruits and vegetables, yogurt, nuts, drinking a lot of natural juices, tons of pH water. And my body does not like meat as much. It's just what it is. Now that might change, but I doubt it. Finally, I want to talk quickly about the UFC. Oh my God. We're going to start with Ben Askren. 5-second fight, knee to the head. Masvidal was hella serious. Let me tell you something. Street fighters are way more dangerous than you think, because what happened to Askren is something that a street fighter would think of. You know, it's almost like a classically trained chess player, grandmaster, going against a street player. Sometimes these street players will get you, bro, because they think outside the little framework that most of us come from, right? And so they're going to do something slightly to the left. And that's what happened. Ben Askren. I'm not mad at him. A lot of people hate him. I do feel he's a little arrogant sometimes. But, you know, you got to beat a fight. You know what I'm saying? But props to Masvidal. And I would love to see Masvidal and Usman. That would be a barn burner. But will Dana make Masvidal fight Woodley before then? That could be buck wild. All right. Now let's look at Nunes, huh? I really thought Holly Holm had a shot. I still think she does. I hope she comes back. And first of all, let me just say, hats off all the way to Nunes. You know, I really don't think that we can appreciate all the things that she had to overcome. Coming from Brazil, being a lesbian, wanting to fight, in a world that didn't have a place for her at all, really. But she stuck with her own passion. She stuck with her own truth, man. And to see her there winning, it's just beautiful. Now, back to the actual fight. I thought she was going to take Holm down. I realized that you don't really see Holm on the ground much, and I figured she would take her down and submit her using strikes to engage her. Holm came out really strong, standing sideways and controlling the distance and staying super safe. That wasn't the problem. The problem was the more that Nunes engaged her, she got square, right? So she was standing sideways and then she would face her. The more that she faced her, the more damage she took. And once she could get her to stay square, she set up the kick. Hats off to Nunes on that. That was just poetic. She is probably the greatest fighter alive. That's a woman in the cage. I think someone said that she was possibly the greatest fighter ever. I'm not sure she's fought enough. I mean, has she had a career as long as John Jones? Has she had a career as long as a whole bunch of other people in this game? I don't know. I think she's got to put in more time, but it looks like she's right. It looks like she's right. You know, I was talking to one of my homies and they was like, "Oh, you know, when women are fighting women, it's not the same as men fighting men." And all I'm saying is, and I've been saying it for a while, the women in the cage are more dynamic, give better fights, show more technique, and show more courage. And quite honestly, I think there's a lot of dudes in that same weight class that if they had to fight Nunes would get beat up, fool. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the women who are off the chain in the cage, I think they could beat up a lot of dudes that are their weight. Not kidding. And I'm not encouraging that kind of competition at all. I'm just saying that it could happen. And if it did, I wouldn't be worried about Nunes. I think she'd knock a lot of dudes out. So, next up, my interview with Denny Prokopos. 300. You understand me? Follow him, Denny Prokopos on IG. At Denny Prokopos on IG. This guy is Eddie Bravo's first black belt. This dude, his knowledge of jiu-jitsu is high gear. We have 2 interviews. This is the first one. It's really just about jiu-jitsu. Our next one is about music and martial arts. But this part 1 is great. If you really about jiu-jitsu, if you love the gentle art, if you want to hear about the mindset of a champion and what it means to train and go after it and the sacrifices that people make that you never hear about, this is the show. Bishop Chronicles, Worldwide West Side, all right? Enjoy this. Much love. What's up, world? You know what it is, man. Adisa Banjoko, a.k.a. the Black Dragon of the West Side. Know what I mean? Iron Hook Assassin Boy, West Side Worldwide. That's how we do it every time. I am chilling with, like, one of the most respected no-gi killers ever, dog. Like, I'm not playing. Like, I know, like, you know, it's easy for me to get up here and say, you know what I'm saying, I kicked it with this dude or that dude, or me and the homie used to be homies, and me and the partner used to be partners. But, like, I've known this dude since he was 12. All right? Now, if you've ever been a part of this real jiu-jitsu scene, if you've ever given a damn about no gi, you already know Denny 300 Prokopos. You know what I mean?
What's up?
Welcome to the Bishop Chronicles, man. How are you?
Wonderful. We just got done training, enjoying another beautiful day. That's it.
What did you teach today?
Today I actually went over rear naked chokes. Went over rear naked chokes today, and I specifically went over how to control the back, the importance of the hooks, the importance of the over-under, the overhand, the underhand, how to squeeze, how to put your hips in, and what side you want to be on. So we went over one topic, but we went into it very in depth.
Yeah, man. It's funny. Like he said, in passing, how to put your hips in. I think when people are watching the UFC or they're watching MMA or they're even watching jiu-jitsu. So yeah, when people talk about putting the hips in, when you're watching jiu-jitsu or when you're watching the UFC, I think a lot of times people don't understand how, in order for one person to control another, so much of it relies on hip pressure. You know what I mean? And when you're attacking from the back or when you have the mount. Talk about for people that don't understand jiu-jitsu or don't practice it, how important is understanding where your hips are in proportion to your opponent?
I think it's super important. It's one of the most important things in terms of controlling and putting pressure, not just controlling, but putting pressure, and also how to properly align, which helps you control and put pressure. Your hips always want to be aligned, because if you have good alignment, then you can control, and if you can control, that will lead you to a finish or improving your position.
Now, it's crazy because if I'm just being honest, as a friend and as a fan, I have never properly kept up with all of the titles that you have held over the years. I know, because I've known you since you were super young, that you're, one of Charles's standout dudes way back, Charles Gracie, you know what I'm saying? That's where we met, shout out to Charles. What's up, Cristiano and the rest of the squad? I know you're Eddie Bravo's first black belt, who pioneered the lane and made it possible for so many other people to believe that people beyond Eddie could do it. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Definitely. Everybody thought Eddie was just a weirdo who did all this flexible stuff until you started finishing people. And I think that also opened up a lot, at least in North America, probably the world, for understanding the value of no gi, just period. You know what I'm saying? But talk to me about some of the titles that you've held, and then I kind of want to run back and look at some of your more the matches that you believe defined you.
Probably in my career, the most important titles was when I was 19 years old. I won the IBJJF Brown Belt World Championship at lightweight. I was actually the first ever world champ at 162 pounds at brown belt. I was the inaugural. That was the first ever worlds that they held under the IBJJF. When I was 21 years old, 6 weeks after I got my black belt, I took third in the IBJJF black belt no-gi worlds. Then I took second in the FILA worlds that same year. And then
that was in Poland, right?
No, that was actually in Florida in the United States.
Okay.
And then in 2010, I ended up winning the FILA Worlds, and I ended up, after that, I won a few super fights. I ended up winning Gracie Worlds as a black belt. I won EBI, had some super fights, and then I had some combat jiu-jitsu matches.
Now, man, let's talk about combat jiu-jitsu, because I think a lot of people still are new to it. It's weird, how you have jiu-jitsu as a niche market, and then you have niches inside the niche, right? What is combat jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, talking about niches is funny because like there's gi and then there's no gi, right? And then there's points and then there's sub only, right? And then there's sub only and then there's combat jiu-jitsu. So it's like a niche within a niche within a niche. So yeah, combat jiu-jitsu is basically, it's sub only, submission only rules with EBI overtimes. And once one knee hits the ground, right, you can technically strike with an open hand, and it has to be specifically with an open hand.
To the body or the face?
To the body or to the face, but you can also hit the legs because in the last combat jiu-jitsu match that I had, I thought it was a unique strategy. The guy was actually hitting my legs, and when there's a famous combat jiu-jitsu match that happened between Brooke Mayo and Alima Leigh McFarland, where like one of them ended up like hitting them in the glutes.
Oh, for real?
I guess that's the right way to say it. The glutes.
Yeah, the glutes.
You know, it's famous footage that's gone viral.
Pretty viral?
It's gone viral throughout Instagram.
So, what are the matches that you think defined you, man? I mean, you have a unique style. You have a very I would define your style. I don't know how you would define it. I see your style as very clean, as very aggressive, and very, very pressure based. Is that accurate? How would you?
Yeah, that's definitely fair to say. I always look to attack. My mentality is attack, attack, attack. Always look for the finish, and I'm always looking to win. I'm always looking to impose myself and play my game. That's always my mentality. You know, different people compete for different reasons, but ever since I've been a kid, when I've competed, competition for me is it's all about one thing: winning. It's just about winning. Like, I don't compete to test myself. I test myself in the gym. And to tell you the truth, if I didn't think that I would win, I wouldn't fight.
Right.
You know, a lot of people, you know, they're like, oh, I'm going to test myself and go see what happens. I think that's a losing mentality. I think the mentality should be, I'm going to go there and I'm going to win. And obviously there's going to be times that you're going to doubt yourself. That's normal. That's normal to have doubt.
That's just competition.
But if you don't believe that you can win, you shouldn't be competing, in my opinion, you know?
I think that's real.
Yeah, I mean, I think today there's a lot of people that, you know, say certain things for the cameras or whatever. I think it's bullshit. I think it's a loser's mentality. I think the mentality should be there to go and win, and that's it. And you know, all the best champions that I've ever been around, whether it's Jean-Jacques Machado or Caio Terra or Yuri Simones, you know, or Jake Shields, they all say, yeah, I'm going to win. That's it. That's the mentality, man. The mentality is go there and win.
Let me ask you real quick. For those that don't know where your school's at, tell them where it's at.
Yeah, San Francisco Jiu-Jitsu, Denny Prokopos Academy, 261 South Van Ness, between 13th and 14th in San Francisco, California.
Yeah, man. Like, this is a dope school, man. A lot of killers in here, man. Like, all weight classes, all kinds of belt levels, and the classes are live. So if you're interested in no-gi and you're in and around San Francisco, you need to, or you're visiting from out of town, you need to put this place on your destination list, for real. Now, let's talk about your brown belt match when you first won that. Now, Joe Rogan was your corner man?
Yeah. So I was supposed to have 3 matches, but I ended up having 2. The first guy didn't make weight, so I got a bye. And then I had 2 matches, won the first round, rear naked, and then the second one, which was the finals, I ended up winning by 2 points with a double leg takedown. And Joe Rogan cornered me that day.
How did that feel?
That's one of the greatest moments of my life. You know, from the age of 12 years old, I wanted to become a world champion, and that was my first time attempting a worlds. And you know, at the time too, you know, there's a lot of people talking shit about 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. They're saying it's it's fake, it's this, it's that. And I didn't just want to win it for me, you know. I wanted to win it for Eddie. I wanted to win it for 10th Planet, you know. So I was really happy to win, you know, because it brought us respect. You know, it brought us respect. You know, there were definitely still a lot of haters, but I mean, you know, here's the truth. At the end of the day, anybody can hate and they can say whatever they want, but, you know, winning is winning and no one can argue with the results.
Yeah. No, I think that's really real. Now, how long was the time that you won that tournament to the time that you got your black belt?
So I was 19 when I won the no-gi brown belt worlds, and then I was 21 when I got my black belt. It was almost 2 years after. It was a little under 2 years that I ended up getting my black belt. I believe it was a year, 9 months after that tournament. And I got my black belt September 29th, 2009. And I believe the no-gi worlds at brown belt was December. It was like, I think it was like around December 12th, somewhere around there, like 2007. So that was 2007. And then September 29th, 2009, I got my black belt. And then I ended up doing the worlds later on that year in November. So 6 weeks after that.
So what do you think you did between winning worlds and getting your black? Like, what do you remember about? Was there anything that you remember about your training, about your mindset, about your diet? What was happening that got you to that point, do you think? Or did you just stay the course and then you got it? Like, how do you interpret the growth that led to you getting that? Because, you know, you can only be the first guy to get your black under Eddie once. So what do you think was the key?
Well, I think Eddie was in a really unique situation at the time because he hadn't promoted anybody to black belt. And I think he was waiting for someone to do something that, you know,
stood out.
And so there was winning the no-gi worlds, and then another really big tournament after that was that I ended up winning after that was no-gi nationals, IBJJF. I ended up winning that tournament. I like to note that in neither of those tournaments did anybody score points on me.
Yeah, that's deep.
And you know, at the time when we were training, there were guys, you know, at back then it wasn't called HQ, it was just 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu because we just had one gym. There was just there were definitely other guys that could have got their black belts, and like, for example, I actually thought Jason Chambers was better than me. Like, when we rolled, he would tap me more, you know, at the time, you know. So, and he was fighting in Japan at the time and he was winning. He was making noise. So I totally understood, like, if that dude would have got his black belt before me, I would have totally understood that, you know. But at the time, him and I and Sean Bollinger, like the three of us, we were all like the three like main dudes that were competing. Yeah. You know, we were at that level. But I was, you know, I ended up, obviously, so I won the no-gi worlds as a brown, and then I ended up winning nationals. So I won nationals after I won worlds. And you know, at the time, so I think, you know, so, you know, I've been tapping black belts since I was 17 years old. Actually, the first time I think I tapped a black belt, I was like 14 or 15. You know, either one or the other.
Were you still at Charles's?
Yes, I was. And but, you know, by the time I got to 17, it was common for me to tap black belts.
Because you knew your style, you knew where you were headed, and you knew what you wanted to see.
Yeah, and like, I mean, at the time too, you know, I mean, I was going to high school, but I was basically, training 6 to 8 hours a day. I was going to high school, I was teaching, and I was training 6 to 8 hours a day. And jiu-jitsu was my only focus. And at that time, that's the only thing I thought about.
Right. I remember.
And
I remember.
So even though I was training with adults, I felt like I had a really big advantage just because I could put in so much more time. And also, too, at the time, looking back, I recovered so much more quicker then than I do now.
Right.
Because I was, 17, 18.
Right.
When you're 17, 18, 19.
And you're disciplined.
Yeah, your recovery is just so much more next level, And, so, yeah.
No, that's beautiful. So tell me about the day you got your black. Did you expect it?
Yeah, the day I got my black belt. Actually, after, so I talked to Eddie, and I remember saying, I'm like, hey, what do I have to do to get to the next level? Because I never asked him what I have to do to get my black belt. Mm-hmm. The question was, what do I have to do to get to the next level? And he's like, win me one more big tournament. And I won nationals, and basically that was in Vegas. And then I think it was like 2 or 3 days after that, I went down to LA, and he gave me my black belt. So I knew I was getting it. It wasn't a surprise. There were a lot of people there. I think there were like 60 people in the room. It was definitely one of the best days of my life. It's definitely one of my proudest moments, and it's still it's something that means means the world to me. Because I love Eddie and I respect him. He's like a father figure to me. So I consider him like a second father. And
shout out to Eddie Bravo, because among other things, he gave me and my ex-wife tickets to the UFC way back in the day.
Yeah, man.
That was dope. And you hooked that up. So yeah. That was one of our wedding anniversaries. That was dope. Let me ask you, man, you outside of your titles, man, and this just hit me because I had this whole other line of questioning, but like, I was remembering one time I talked to you after you went down to Florida and you had trained with Liborio.
Yes.
And you were like, yo, Liborio's whole cranium is on a different level and the stuff that he teaches. But I want to ask you, just like, I will name some people that I know you've trained with, and just kind of, can you talk to me about like what you got from them, the things that you think gives them an edge as an instructor, and what you gained from your time. So we'll start with Liborio, just because I remember that.
Yeah, so for the 2009 Field of Worlds, there was a world camp at American Top Team, and he was the head coach of Team USA. So I was very fortunate because I got the opportunity to spend 10 days in Florida, and every day I was training with Liborio. We were training twice a day, and what I learned from him was strategy specifically for that event. I was exposed to new ideas on guard passing. I was exposed to more setups on the head and arm choke, which was something that's a specialty of his. New concepts on how to control the back, and also I learned new setups on the north-south choke.
Yeah.
And I was actually I had the honor of sparring with him. It was actually really cool because I didn't see him spar with anybody else, but he sparred with me.
That's cool.
Yeah. I had I don't know. I think Liborio and I met him at the U.S. World Team Trials, and we hit it off really well. And I think I was having like a weird day in training. I did really good, but I don't know. There was something that I guess was off about me that day, or at least he felt it. And, he sparred with me, and it made me really happy. He beat the shit out of me.
Right.
And it was a humbling experience, but it just made me really happy that I got to train with him.
And how old were you? 22 or something?
21.
Yeah.
21 at the time.
Yeah.
21. And it was a great experience, very humbling experience. And it was funny, dude, because he ended up, he ended up tapping me. And like one of the times that he tapped me, he tapped me with a rape joke. I'm like, oh shit. And I was like, I'm not going to tap to this. And the next thing I knew, I was tapping. So, but.
Now, you've trained with Jean-Jacques, right? Many, many times for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Like, when was the first time you remember getting to train with him? Because, like, just for those that are not necessarily embedded in the jiu-jitsu world, like Jean-Jacques Machado, it's hard for me to put into words how impactful he has been for jiu-jitsu. It's hard for me to put into words how pioneering he was for no gi, let alone the gi. And he's absolutely a legend. So tell me about.
Yeah, Jean-Jacques one of the greatest of all time, man. Gi or no gi, he won ADCC, and so growing up in jiu-jitsu, my entry to jiu-jitsu, I started training February 12th, 2001, which is funny because that's his birthday.
That's crazy.
His birthday is February 12th.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So the era that I entered into jiu-jitsu, he was, when it came to ADCC, he was the king at 77 kilograms.
Yeah.
And I remember just watching him, and I remember being so amazed because, one, he's finishing everything. He's finishing everybody,
right.
And also, too, his hand's different.
Yeah, he doesn't have all the digits on one hand.
Yes. So I remember thinking, wow, that's amazing. And not just that, man, like I remember watching him compete, and I'm like, man, he looks so confident, like in his eyes.
Yeah, he always has a fire focus.
Yeah, man. And from the beginning, that was someone that I looked up to. Mm-hmm. That was someone that I looked up to. And a few years after I got into jiu-jitsu, I think I was around 14, I ended up meeting him because he was putting on the grappling games tournaments, and I competed in a few of those.
Yeah.
And
what year was this? What year was that?
Oof, it's got to be at least anywhere between 2002 and 2003.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Somewhere around there. And I started training with Jean-Jacques when I was 21 years old.
Okay.
Started training with Jean-Jacques when I was 21. Eddie took me down there. And, basically from then, 21 at the time, I'm 31 now. From then till now, I've been going down there, and I've been training with him for a decade now, and it's been amazing to train with him,
What do you take away from him? What do you see? What do people who admire him, what are the things that you're experiencing that as much as we may be, as someone like myself as a fan, as an admirer, can't have access to, is not,
Well, there's many things. There's not just one thing.
I'm sure.
The very first thing is that philosophically, he's my favorite. He talks about the physical aspect of the physical aspect of jiu-jitsu, the technical aspect of jiu-jitsu, the mental aspect and the spiritual aspect. And on a technical level, his technique to me is like probably the most effortless. Mm-hmm. And it's invisible jiu-jitsu.
It's very clean, man.
Yeah.
The transitions are clean, man.
100%. And 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu is my base, and 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu comes from Jean-Jacques Machado.
Yeah.
So
he's like the root of all the evolution.
Exactly. So, man, anything Jean-Jacques shows me, I can just like instantly do. It's not like that with everybody else's jiu-jitsu, but with his jiu-jitsu very specifically, it just makes so much sense to me. So much sense. And, you know, there's that, you know, and then, you know, there's the mental game. I love his mentality.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember one time talking to him, and this is going back to what we previously spoke about, and I'm like, what do you think about the mentality? Like, just go there and win. He's like, that's the mentality. That's how you should be thinking, you know?
Yeah.
And that and the mentality of attack, you know.
Why attack? For people that don't get that, why?
Jiu-jitsu's not running. Jiu-jitsu's going to the guy.
Right.
You know, like, so when, let's say you're boxing or you're kickboxing, you know, you can move in and out. And the truth is, there are times when you should do that in jiu-jitsu. There are times when you should, like if you're fighting someone, if you're fighting someone much bigger, I can understand that. But if you're fighting, if you're fighting or grappling someone that's close to your weight, you shouldn't. You should just be going to them, and you know, you should just be connecting and look to impose your game. And there's that. And then, you know, attack, because what are you trying to do? You're trying to tap the guy out. You know, trying
to get that choke, get that arm lock, get that leg.
Exactly. So that's the mentality, you know. And like another thing for me, like on a real personal level, you know, I grew up idolizing Jean-Jacques. Yeah. That's, you know, when I was a kid, when I was in my early teens, in my late teens, that's who I wanted to be like.
Yeah.
That's what, you know, that's the guy that I idolized and I wanted to be like. So for me, it's like, so my childhood basketball hero is Michael Jordan.
Right.
You know, it's basically like learning
from Jordan.
Yeah, it's like learning from Jordan and also getting to play with Jordan.
Right.
You know, and there's that. And
have you ever trained with Regan? With Higan Machado, rather?
Higan, yeah.
Sorry, yeah,
Higan.
I said it wrong, yeah.
Yeah, I've trained with Higan, and Higan.
What are their differences in terms of it? Are there any major differences in the way that Higan teaches versus Jean-Jacques? Higan Machado, just so you know, if you like John Wick, you like Higan Machado.
Yeah, because
he trained John Wick, so.
Yep. He trains Keanu Reeves, and actually, I believe all the brothers do.
Yeah,
I believe all the brothers do, all the Machados.
Shout out to John Wick 3. Go see it.
Yeah, go check it out. I'm a fan of John Wick. It's a badass movie.
I like 2 though. I haven't seen 3. I'm just gonna say I liked watching Common in John Wick. I thought he did better moving around doing jiu-jitsu than I expected.
That's awesome.
Shout out to Common. Although, do you really train? I'm curious.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to ask the guy. What are the differences between Higan and Jean-Jacques? Well, with Higan, I've only had the opportunity to take 2 seminars from him, which he taught at my school. Mm-hmm. You know, with Jean-Jacques, spent a lot of
like years.
You know, I've spent like a decade on the mat with him.
Right.
So it's
not an easy question.
It's not easy to say, but I mean, I can more. So they're both amazing. Like when you spar with them, they're both amazing. They're both super fluid.
Right.
It's super. Their jiu-jitsu super technical, super
and Higan's
fluid.
Much bigger than Jean-Jacques.
Yeah,
and that's what makes his fluidity even more scary. If you don't understand how big Higan is, to be honest.
Yeah. So the last time I trained with Higan was like somewhere around 2009, 2010. So we're talking about like almost a decade ago. Yeah. And you know, at the time, I felt like really on top of my game, and I really felt like a white belt with the guy because like no one key locks me.
Right.
No one key locks me. Hagen literally passed my guard like he was showing a technique on someone. Like he was showing a technique, and then he key locked me like he was. It literally was like the guy was. It felt like how he teaches the move is exactly how he felt doing it to me, and I just remember feeling so helpless. You know, my mind was just blown away. I'm like, wow, man, this is. You know, and keep in mind at the time I'm already a black belt.
Right, you're doing it. You're in the mix.
And I'm training, and I have access to some of the best guys in the world. But to tell you the truth, I don't know if I've ever felt anything like that since then.
Wow.
You know, he's 260, but still though, it was insane. It was insane, you know.
Dr. Pete says the same stuff, man. Dr. Pete says the same stuff.
It was very humbling, man. It was very humbling. I think, you know, a guy like that, you can train your whole entire life and you'll never tap.
Right. Right.
Like for real. And
right.
I don't think that about anybody, but I do think that about him. Yeah. But, you know, so going back to like the first, you know, how you asked, they're both complete grapplers because like from both of them I've learned chokes, arm bars, leg locks, passes, and they both talk about being complete grapplers.
Right.
You know, and they're both super nice people. They're both really nice people.
I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make that don't know jiu-jitsu is that most people who do jiu-jitsu are chill individuals. They're not like buck wild fight club-ish type of people. I mean, they can be in the mix, but like when I think about the best guys that I've ever come across, they're always chill, man. Very rare to find someone who's like pretty harebrained in the mix.
I would say most.
Yeah, it was most. Definitely not all.
I would say most, but not all.
Yeah, definitely,
you know,
definitely not all.
I've been around
some wild stuff.
Oh yeah, and you know I've had my moments too. So I'm not a saint.
Yeah, they don't call him 300 for nothing, but know what I mean? Now let me ask you this, and I didn't even intend to ask you this. You mentioned a few minutes ago the spiritual aspects of jiu-jitsu. Man, let me just say, like, it's very hard for me to come across people who are at the black belt level that don't believe in a spiritual aspect of jiu-jitsu on some level. When did you start to see a spiritual element in jiu-jitsu? And for those that don't understand it, whether they're a white belt or a blue belt or a purple belt or someone who does not practice or someone who doesn't do MMA, why is there a spiritual element to this? Why do you believe there's a spiritual element to this?
Well, the first time I was really introduced to that idea with jiu-jitsu was watching Choke with Ricardo Gracie, right?
That's an amazing. Choke is a documentary about Ricardo Gracie. If you don't know how to spell that, it's Rickson, and it's on YouTube. You can watch it. Continue.
And so that's one of my favorite documentaries. Even still now, so much stuff has come out, and like
nothing touches Choke, bro.
Yeah, you know,
there's even chess in Choke.
Exactly. So that was my introduction to jiu-jitsu being spiritual, or like anyone I had ever heard talk about, you know, the spirituality of, you know, jiu-jitsu. That was my introduction to it. Now, that was the introduction. What was the question after that?
I think I was asking, like, what was your introduction to, like, on a personal level, where you start, you know what I mean? Because when I started doing jiu-jitsu, I didn't feel nothing spiritual. Not at white belt, not even at blue. I think approaching purple, I started to feel it. And from purple into brown for sure. Because I'm a philosophical dude, but you know what I mean?
I mean, man, it's hard. It's hard to answer this question.
I know.
But and I'm only talking for myself. So I started training at a young age, and I realized that everything is pretty much energy.
Right.
Right. And that was a realization that came through what people were talking about around me, and then just my observation of life. And what I learned from that was pretty much, you want to be as positive as possible, you know? And so it's more mentality of, you know, positivity, being positive, you know, about yourself, having faith, and being positive to other people. Like, for example, when you're a teacher, right, you should always say positive and uplifting things to your students or whoever you're training and you're coaching. You know, there shouldn't be any negativity. It should just be positivity, because your job is to uplift other people. And that's there's that, you know, and then the attitude of gratitude, I would say.
Right.
You know, and that's
a huge thing in jiu-jitsu for me.
And that's something that, you know, I learned from Eddie. You know, he always said, you know, drill appreciation, you know, drill appreciation. So, you know, that's something I always try to focus on.
Yeah.
Is just being positive and being grateful for what I have, you know. And for example, there have been many days that I've trained and I was preparing for, you know, a big tournament or a big match, and I had a terrible day of training.
Right.
You know, and I'm ultra competitive. I hate to lose. And, you know, it would bother me how I felt. It would bother me. And then instead of like the outcome not going my way, I would just be like, all right, well, you know, you chose to do this. You love jiu-jitsu. You know, you'd rather be doing this than anything else.
Right.
You know, and even though you got your ass kicked, you still love what you do. So it's still all
Keep
good.
going.
You know, yeah, it's still all good. Yeah, it's still a beautiful day, dude. Like, you know, all right, yeah, you took an ass whooping. Yeah, you got tapped a bunch of times. Yeah, you might be questioning yourself, whatever, but at the end of the day, you still do what you love, so just keep going. You know, that's it. You know, just be grateful for what you have. And that attitude, man, that attitude, you know?
Are there any books in particular that have influenced your understanding of jiu-jitsu or how you teach it? I'm just curious.
The books.
Just because I know you've read a lot of different stuff, I was just curious.
You know what, man? I've been involved with this for such a long time, and there have been so many influences. It would be hard just to say, you know, just one thing, but
right.
There was this book that I read when I was 15 years old called The Mental Edge by Kenneth Baum. That book really influenced me.
Okay.
That was my introduction to like positivity and, you know, sports psychology and goal setting and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Later on in my life, there was this book that I read called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah, it's a great book.
It was a great book. That was a huge influence. There's this guy named Dr. Thurman Fleet, which a friend of mine named Dr. Peter Goldman introduced me to. He's my chiropractor, and I've read a bunch of his work. There's a book called Raise of the Dawn.
Yeah, Raise of the Dawn is mandatory reading for everyone. Whether you do jiu-jitsu or not, if you don't go buy Raise of the Dawn, you're kind of going out right now. I'm just telling you. It's a great book.
Yeah, so there's that.
Dr. Thurman Fleet.
Yep, Dr. Thurman Fleet. There was a book that I had read called Conquest of Mind. It's by I have a hard time pronouncing the guy's name, but I don't want to. So I don't want to
butcher it. Look that up on Amazon, people.
Conquest of Mind. It's there was that book. Oh, you know what book I really loved, man? The Kabbalion.
I don't even know it.
The Kabbalion is basically this book that talks about how everything is energy.
Okay.
And talks about the 7 universal laws of life. It's based off of Egyptian mysticism, basically.
Okay. Sounds sick.
Yeah, and like it's a very unique book.
Okay.
It's a very unique book. You know,
Okay.
it's like spiritual / occult.
All right, a spiritual / occult.
You know, I really enjoyed that book, and I still read it. Art of War. You know what's funny? You were the guy that told me to read The Art of War.
I remember.
You were the guy that told me to read The Art of War.
The OG, you see, think, man, come on, bruh.
And I'll give you 2 other books that you told me to read.
Go.
You told me to read The Art of War, then you told me to read The Art of Peace, and I actually liked The Art of Peace better.
I know, right? People sleep on the art of peace, man. Everybody sleeps on the art of peace. It's still like, I will never hate on Sun Tzu ever, but I'm saying the art of peace is fire. It's so beautiful. It's underestimated forever, man. Ridiculous.
I would also say I enjoyed the Book of 5 Rings.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Here's a classic, you know, that probably won't surprise anybody, but, you know, the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. That was
so smoking.
Yeah, that book, you know, by Bruce Lee was a huge influence. You know, it really opened up my mind. The truth is, when you talk about my introduction to martial arts and spirituality,
right,
that was probably the first book that, you know, talked about martial, like really introduced me to martial arts and spirituality, but that was martial arts and spirituality, not jiu-jitsu and spirituality, right?
I feel what you're saying.
2 different things.
Yeah.
They're similar, but they're different. You know what I mean?
I would go so far as to say that, because if I had to ask myself that same question, like, yes, you know, I read The Art of Peace back when I was training at House, read the Book of 5 Rings when I was training at House, right? Mm-hmm. Art of War, all that. But like, I think the spiritual side of jiu-jitsu comes from the training. Like, I don't think that like, I can talk to any one of my students about the spiritual aspects of jiu-jitsu, but until it gets awakened in them in a match or in a tournament, like it's just words and symbols and like signposts. But I don't think that, I think that individually the trigger hits each of us different.
I agree 100%. Like, it doesn't, you can read all the books that you want, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have to train, and you know what? You have to get to the point to where like you can handle getting your ass beat and you can keep going.
Yep.
And I mean, the greatest thing that I feel like jiu-jitsu teaches people is to not quit.
Say that one more time, bro.
The greatest thing that I think jiu-jitsu teaches people is to not quit and to keep going, you know, and how to embrace the struggle of life. So now I'm 31. When I first started training, I was very young and stupid. And
are we all at 21?
And I'm pretty much sure I'm still young and stupid. I just have a little bit better understanding of things.
Some more wisdom under your belt.
Yeah, but you know, you can be wise and still be a fool.
Yeah.
You know,
that's who I am. I'm the wise fool. You'd be like, damn, D, you're hella deep. I'm like, stop.
You are, though. You are. You know?
Man.
Oh, you know what, man? You know who, we talk about books. You know what I was really into, and this is even like before jiu-jitsu or anything like that, was Greek philosophy, and that was something that my father taught me. That was something that was, you know.
What was he showing you? I'm curious, because my introduction was actually, I started looking into philosophy because of KRS-One. He made that song, My Philosophy. You know what I'm saying? That's an old school hip hop jam. And I was like, yo, and so what happened is I went to a used bookstore on Haight Street. I think I could find it if it's still there, because I kind of remember the area. But I bought this book, and it had the Apology in it. That's all I knew. I knew that Socrates had written the Apology, and it had this other book that I think is way better than the Apology called Euthyphro. And so I went and I bought it, but I'm going to say in all humility that I didn't know how to say Socrates, so I called him Socrates. And I remember I went to my dad after I read the book, and I was like, dude, I read Socrates. And my dad was laying on the bed. He was like, what? You know what I'm saying? It was hilarious. But yeah, Greek philosophy.
I like Socrates.
Yeah, Socrates is hard.
You know, I've actually heard people call him that.
Yeah. And then what's hilarious is when I saw, I hadn't even think about it, when I saw Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, they call him Socrates. And I was like, I'm going out.
It's all good, man.
But what did your father teach you? Like, tell me, like, what was, you know, was it Stoic philosophy? Was it pre-Socratic? Was it Socrates? Like, what was it?
I think by nature, all Greeks are raised with philosophy. I think that's embedded into the Greek culture. Agreed. You know, I think
after this, the battery's gonna die. Break it down, and then we'll close it out.
Yeah, I think all Greeks are. You know, they're all taught philosophy. I think that's just part of the culture. But I mean, the biggest thing that my dad taught me was to, you know, always try to be the best, and always to do my best, and to pretty much always try and win, you know.
What did you read at that age? What was he? Do you remember any books, or was this about him lacing you as a father to a son?
He was just, you know, he would just talk about this, you know, and he would also talk about you can make 1,000 mistakes a day, just trying not to make the same one, and you know, every day is another day is another opportunity to learn. You're always learning, you know, like, yeah, you know, and like, those are simple things, but they're very big things. They're
beautiful things when you're 10 or 9, or, you know what I mean, as you start to evolve into a young teenager, preteen. You know, those things are powerful.
I feel like it was like the philosophy of success, and then, like, you know, he would tell me history about Alexander the Great and things of that nature, you know. And then, like, as I went to school, I started studying on my own, you know, history and like philosophy, and, you know, out of all the, you know, out of the, like, the 3 like most popular like Greek philosophers that are most well known for me, Aristotle,
right?
He's the best, you know. I mean, and I think, you know, everybody knows his best student. It's Alexander the Great. So, you know, he's the guy I think that he produced.
Yeah. No,
you know what I'm saying?
It's real.
Yeah.
Man, well, listen, Denny, thank you for being on the Bishop Chronicles, man. I appreciate you. It's sometimes hard for me to interview you because I feel so close to you, you know what I'm saying, in certain ways, because I've known you for so long. But I appreciate you sharing your time, and I know our listeners feel the same. If someone's trying to get in contact with you, where can they hit you?
BJJ San Francisco is my website. If you want to learn jiu-jitsu from me. Instagram at Denny Prokopos. Twitter, same thing. Facebook, same thing. And Adisa, thank you very much for having me on. You know,
bro.
I love you. You're my boy. You know, I've known you for a long time.
I love you too, bro. It's awesome.
Thank you for being you, and, you know, thank you for another great opportunity to be on your podcast and to share time with you, man.
Word, man. Well, we're gonna get you on again because, you know what, we did this whole ass interview, and we didn't even talk about hip hop. We didn't even talk about the music that we was playing today, Philip Glass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about Dilated Peoples. We didn't even talk about Wu-Tang, and when you did the first
Hip hop chess.
when you at the hip hop chess thing, when you and Gumby did the first jiu-jitsu instructionals, you know what I'm saying? So we got to have you back on, and we'll have you back on soon, like for real. Like in a couple of weeks, we'll get you back on for a part 2, and we'll just be talking about hip hop and martial arts on that one, man. But thank you for being down. Appreciate you. This is Bishop Chronicles. This is FarsideTV.com, talking about Side Life Radio. You know what I'm saying? This is the Black Dragon of the West Side. You know what I'm saying? It's Uncle House Shoes, baby. We out here chilling on the West Coast, man. Stop playing. You know we raw. All right? Peace.
Teacher, what style is that? Don't think.
You are now listening to the Bishop Chronicles. Bishop Chronicles.
You're lots to learn. Try with me. It's my own secret technique.